Won't you let a nigga breathe? You always worried about me, stressing over things you heard about me. Won't you let a nigga breathe? Always saying you're hurting about me, that's who I am, ain't nothing perfect about me. Won't you let a nigga breathe? You always worried about me, stressing over things you heard about me. Won't you let a nigga breathe? Always saying you're hurting about me, that's who I am, ain't nothing perfect about me. Won't you let a nigga back up, bitch? Why you always trying to press a nigga? If it ain't one thing, it's the next, it starts to stress a nigga. This overthinking that you doing, it affects a nigga. Patience running thin with you for real, bitch, don't you test a nigga. Ain't never been the type to show no one affection, nigga. She don't trust me, say I'm the reason she don't mess with niggas. Calls me toxic cause I ain't with none of the extras, niggas. Pushing me away, bro, once I'm gone, you ain't gon' catch a nigga. I'm feeling boxed in, I need me some space. There ain't no turning back like TK, I'm doing the race. Forget the bitch, I bag the only thing I ever would chase. Thought you was coming with sight, your number getting erased. On to the next, you should've known how why the look on your face. Get the fuck from off my phone, it's best that you know your place. These years I'll never get them back, with you they go in the waste. Got what I wanted, now I'm skating and you getting replaced. Won't you let a nigga breathe? You always worried about me, stressing over things you heard about me. Won't you let a nigga breathe? Always saying you're hurting about me, that's who I am, ain't nothing perfect about me. Won't you let a nigga breathe? You always worried about me, stressing over things you heard about me. Won't you let a nigga breathe? Always saying you're hurting about me, that's who I am, ain't nothing perfect about me. Won't you let a nigga breathe? Won't you let a nigga breathe? You always worried about me, stressing over things you heard about me. Won't you let a nigga breathe? Always saying you're hurting about me, that's who I am, ain't nothing perfect about me. Won't you let a nigga breathe? You always worried about me, stressing over things you heard about me. Won't you let a nigga breathe? Always saying you're hurting about me, that's who I am, ain't nothing perfect about me. Won't you let a nigga back up, bitch? Why you always trying to press a nigga? If it ain't one thing, it's the next, it starts to stress a nigga. This overthinking that you doing, it affects a nigga. Patience running thin with you for real, bitch, don't you test a nigga. Ain't never been the type to show no one affection, nigga. She don't trust me, say I'm the reason she don't mess with niggas. Calls me toxic cause I ain't with none of the extras, niggas. Pushing me away, bro, once I'm gone, you ain't gon' catch a nigga. I'm feeling boxed in, I need me some space. There ain't no turning back like TK, I'm doing the race. Forget the bitch, I bag the only thing I ever would chase. Thought you was coming with sight, your number getting erased. On to the next, you should've known how why the look on your face. Get the fuck from off my phone, it's best that you know your place. These years I'll never get them back, with you they go in the waste. Got what I wanted, now I'm skating and you getting replaced. Won't you let a nigga breathe? You always worried about me, stressing over things you heard about me. Won't you let a nigga breathe? Always saying you're hurting about me, that's who I am, ain't nothing perfect about me. Won't you let a nigga breathe? You always worried about me, stressing over things you heard about me. Won't you let a nigga breathe? Always saying you're hurting about me, that's who I am, ain't nothing perfect about me. Won't you let a nigga breathe? Yeah, it's bats. Nigga, where am I going? Drop the four in my cup, now I'm floating. I can't feel a thing, to be real, I just go through the motions. Where am I going? Nigga, I'm in deep like the ocean. I've been in my bag, everybody around me, I'm ghosting. Where am I going? Drop the four in my cup, now I'm floating. I can't feel a thing, to be real, I just go through the motions. Where am I going? Nigga, I'm in deep like the ocean. I've been in my bag, everybody around me, I'm ghosting. Where am I going? I don't know.
We are going to another episode of HardFoul Radio. Appreciate everybody for tuning in today. Whether you're watching the live stream or you listen to the episode after the fact, appreciate you guys as always. This is the show that values time, so let's get started. So today, again, going along with our themes, today is story time. And to me, when you're reading a story or you're reading a book, there's two main things you're trying to get. Either somebody is just trying to entertain you, right? They just want to give you this story with this world. They want to be entertaining. Anyone who knows me, I read a lot of manga. Manga is for the most part trying to entertain you. Maybe teach some stuff subtly here and there, but primarily it is a way to entertain yourself, be fun, exciting. You guys know. And then there is books that are trying to teach you or stories that are trying to teach you. That person is generally very well versed in the subject that they are trying to teach, and they want to pass on some of this information. And one of the best ways to spread information to a mass amount of people, well, before YouTube, we had books. They still exist. I know most people go to YouTube first before the books, but the books that teach stuff still exist. And so I think that's also very true with sports, is a lot of times when you get a sports story, it is either trying to teach you something or it's just meant to be entertaining. I've said this a lot. I don't necessarily care if my team is bad, but they're fun, right? Maybe you rooted for an NFL team that had a high-flying offense, but the defense was really bad, so they got outscored every game. But you had a good time watching 35-30 every week. That can be fun. Now, you can't be bad and boring where you're losing and your offense is horrible and your defense isn't good enough to keep the game close. Now you're bad and boring. It's not fun. You're not learning anything. You can also be, though, you can be good and boring, which is the teaching side of the book. These books and these stories aren't meant to be fun, super creative, but it's somebody who knows what the hell they're talking about, and they are able to, over the course of their story, teach you and get the point home and let you know, hey, this is how you do this. The Patriots dynasty, the Spurs dynasty, there's other ones in there's baseball ones, the Braves for a long time where it was just starting pitching. It was this very meticulous, it wasn't overly exciting story, but they got it done. Brady, obviously, 7 rings, 6 rings with New England, if you want to be specific. Duncan, 5 rings with San Antonio. And the Braves, well, not quite as much ring success, unparalleled success as far as winning your division X amount of years in a row. So your story either needs to be exciting, like entertaining, or it could be boring, but it has to teach you something, has to be successful. So why is that our theme for the day? Well, I didn't record on Friday. We didn't go live on Friday. And so Tua and Jordan Love both got paid. And I want to look at both stories. We're going to start with Tua. And I believe this wholeheartedly. I've seen a lot of people the last 40 to 72 hours. Does Tua deserve that much? Oh, who is Miami going to lose because they have to pay him? Oh my gosh, the salary cap. You know, for a bunch of people that claim they don't count pockets, fans find a way to start counting pockets when the salary cap gets involved. It's really funny. Here's the thing with Tua's contract. And I do think these are two different situations. With Tua's contract is not a story about why are quarterbacks overpaid, why are the Dolphins willing to do this with a guy that we don't eye test, see as someone in that top 5 to 10 range, but now he's getting paid like a top 5 to 10 guy. It's not a story about the player. It's not a story about the money. This is honestly a story about the general manager. And while the GMs play different roles in both the Tua and Jordan Love situation, with Tua's situation and other quarterbacks that have been paid, if your team can't figure it out, it's not on the player. I'm talking about figuring out as far as a salary cap and surrounding that player with talent. It's on the general manager. Because here's the thing. If you draft a guy, first off, you drafted Tua in the first round, high end side of the first round. So unless your thought process as GM, and I don't believe this to be the case, was just, we're going to draft this guy, he's probably not going to be that good, so cool, we're going to pay for all these players while he's on a rookie contract, and then he's probably just not going to be that good, so we'll just replace him in 4 or 5 years. You know you're going to have to pay these guys, and not just quarterbacks. And it's not just the quarterback market that's exploded. Have you seen wide receivers lately? Tua, when Tyreek got traded from the Chiefs to the Dolphins, the big story was, first $30 million a year wide receiver. Well, now we got 5 of them, and number 6 is on the way because CeeDee Lamb and the Cowboys are supposedly close to a 4-year, $136 million deal. So, and the general managers that are good at it, i.e. the best GM in the NFL, Howie Roseman, how come he finds a way to pay everybody and we don't ever hear about what are the Eagles going to do? Now they're paying Jalen Hurts all this money. Are they paying A.J. Brown all this money? Are they paying Devontae Smith all this money? Are they paying offensive line? How do the Eagles and Howie Roseman figure out how to do this? How does Patrick Mahomes have a 10-year, $500 million contract and they still have the flexibility to pay Travis Kelce and Chris Jones? Oh, it's because he's not actually making that much. His average annual is less because he took more. No. If you look at the way his contract is structured, the next 4 years, Mahomes is going to make more money than anyone in the history of the sport. That's just the reality of it. Yes, it looks different when you take average annual value, but if you look at how the contract, and they went and broke it down on NFL.com, really good article, go look it up, where they broke down in like 4-year segments how much Mahomes gets paid. And Mahomes technically is allowed to just say, hey, look, he could just hold out and say, hey, I'm not coming unless I am paid what I'm already paid, or I'm sorry, whatever I'm holding out unless I am paid what the highest paid guy is, plus $5 million. And he could do that, and that's in his contract, right? So he's going to be paid more cash than anybody. But what makes Howie Roseman and the Chiefs, it's not just getting ahead of this stuff. It's getting ahead of this stuff. It is understanding how the salary cap actually works. How many years do we have to pay this off? Meaning, if you are a team like the Dallas Cowboys, who, probably aren't run the best, don't have the best general manager in the sport, they're waiting until the last possible second, so they're going to pay every single dollar and have no wiggle room to pay Lamb, Parsons, and if they do want to put up the $60 million a year for Dak, like, what does Dallas do if they win a Super Bowl, right? Then you have to pay everybody because you can't let the Super Bowl winning quarterback walk out the door, and you can't franchise tag him. So now they're paying Dak 60, and they're paying Micah, who's going to want the most money ever for a non-quarterback, and CD just got, I think, almost or tied with the most money ever for a non-quarterback. So if you have to pay all those guys, but you waited until the last second, you're going to feel every bit of that on your salary cap, and it's going to be immediate. Howie Roseman paid A.J. Brown not only once they got him, but they gave him another extension with several years left on his deal, and they are constantly restructuring. It's not just, they don't look at it as, oh, I gave a guy 4 years, $200 million, and now I don't have to worry about this for 3 to 4 years. They're constantly evolving and adapting, and the longer a guy is under contract, the more you can spread out his money. Once he's no longer on contract, that's when everything becomes due immediately, right? Even as a regular consumer, we understand that. You ever had to push back your phone bill or your Cox bill or your whatever subscription you're paying for? It's like, hey, I don't have the money today, but I'm gonna pay you guys on Friday. And you got to talk to the little messenger thing and say, hey, look, let's push this back. Because as long as you are their customer, they will give you a window in which to pay. The same for these NFL teams. They now have a window. A.J. Brown, all the money he's been given, he's extended 3 years out past, I think, even his current contract he's on, and that's his extension going to be out there. So they have 4 years to pay this extension, so that even if they're paying max money, which it's never going to truly be the max, because they paid A.J. Brown the max for right now, it's not going to be, hell, it's not even the max for what CD just got paid. It's not the max for what Justin Jefferson just got paid. So he'll still be in that top 5, top 6 receiver pay grade for right now, but that will come down and they have more time to pay him. Howie Roseman's been doing this for years. The Niners, it's one of their keys to success. They've been doing it too. Restructuring, like everyone's saying, oh, well, Trent Williams is holding out. That's a bad sign. He still has time on his contract. If they want to get him paid now, they can spread that out over 4 to 5 years, even if it's really only 1 or 2 years of actual big money going towards it. So yeah, you can be paid like the best left tackle in football, which Trent Williams is, and we'll give you 3 years out of it, 3 years paying you like the top left tackle in football, but we can spread it out financially as an organization and what our owner has to write a check for over 5 years because we'll give it to you early. Now, and in Howie Roseman's defense, the other part that makes him so smart and why this works is because they're also willing to admit mistakes. because it's very easy to say, well, if I pay everyone earlier, if I'm paying everyone top dollar, but what happens if I do give a guy, like a lot of people feel like with Jalen Hurts, I like Jalen Hurts. I don't want to necessarily throw this cast over him. But people feel like, well, did you pay Jalen Hurts too early? Well, you're only going to know you paid Jalen Hurts too early based on his performance on the field. And let's say Jalen doesn't play well, right? Like the Eagles did a couple years ago with Carson Wentz. They paid him. It turned out to be too early because Carson basically fell off a cliff as far as his playing performance went. And so they did that. They understood, hey guys, look, we fucked up. We hit on 8 out of our 10 guys who we signed. We missed on Carson, missed on another player. We're just going to cut them, take our losses. It's 1 year of bad cap, and then we're going to keep it rolling. The Broncos, who are not for the most part, have not been the most well-run team, and they've had issues. Something that they've did with the Russ contract, new ownership, willing to write a big check and say, hey, look, we're going to eat it for 1 year. We're going to get our guy. We're going to start restructuring a handful of other players that we want to keep. Just restructure Cortland Sutton. They've already got plans. They're talking to Pat Surtain about a new deal. They're going to pay all those guys, and they're going to eat it for 1 year on the Russ signing and went, hey, look, we tried it. We tried it 1 year, bring in brand new head coach who was going to be Russ's guy. We're going to attach them. That didn't work. Get rid of Nathaniel Hackett. Bring in Sean Payton, proven winner, proven guy who knows offense. Hey, still didn't work. We're not even going to give you the full season. We're going to get rid of you. We're going to write the big check. We're going to eat a really bad salary cap for 1 year and keep it moving. Still signed Powers, offensive lineman, which is going to be necessary for whoever the next quarterback is at left guard. Just re-signed Quinn Miners, 4 years, $80 million, and got McGlinchey from San Francisco last year. And like I said, restructure Cortland Sutton. They're about to give Pat Surtain money. The teams that have it figured out, whether it all works out on the field or not, you can see who is writing the story of let me show you how the salary cap works. Let me put the playbook in front of you. And what's so maddening, I think, for teams and what's so maddening for fans of these teams that don't understand the salary cap is somebody else is writing the game plan out for you. Somebody else is writing the book and delivering it to your front door and say, hey, this is how you do it. Hey, it's impossible to do it 100%. And if you're one of those GMs where you just don't want to be wrong, well, it's going to cost you a whole lot more money, and that money is due immediately because you can no longer push your bill back. You can't tell Verizon or Cox or SDG&E or whichever one of these service or subscriptions, you can't tell them, hey, I need a little bit more time. Your time's up. The bill has become due, and it needs to be paid in full, or we are getting rid of it. So, Tua getting paid, Justin Herbert getting paid, Trevor Lawrence, all these guys. If your team cannot retain talent because you're paying your quarterback too much money, that is 1,000% a GM story. It is not a quarterback story or a player story. The good GMs, the great GMs, they figure it out. Now, and like I said, and all these guys are going to get paid, and it's irrelevant to just come on here and keep talking about, oh, what would I have paid this guy or would I have not have paid this guy? There's about 15 quality quarterbacks a year. Like 15, legitimately the team is happy with where they are at. And there's about another 4 to 5 that are rookies or first-year players where teams are going, hope. And then the bottom third of the league, even if it's been their starter or they're on a retread, are not happy with where they're at the quarterback position. And it's no different this year. Look at the 5 or 6 guys who just got drafted. Those teams are all going, hope it works. And then you've got your obvious elite quarterbacks, Mahomes, Lamar, Allen. We know those guys. We've got this new crop of guys where the teams feel pretty good about it. The guys who have just been getting signed, Lawrence, Herbert, Hurts. And then you got a bunch of, Atlanta gave Kirk Cousins more money as he's now older, coming off an injury, and hope that works. And they didn't even believe it enough, so they had to go draft Michael Penix. The Raiders they went out and signed a free agent quarterback. Do the Raiders look happy about where they're at quarterback? If you're a Raiders fan, are you happy about where they're at quarterback? And then you got the obvious teams just like they just know they're not good enough at quarterback, and they're gonna have to except that kind of going out there with this guy for this year, but it's probably not a long-term solution, and that is guys who are both paid and guys who are cheap. Do you think the Browns are happy with their quarter? Do you think the Browns love their quarterback situation? And look how much they're paying their guy. That's probably unfair. He's an easy target, but he's freaky, so we don't feel bad for him. Now, Jordan Love, I think, is a different story than Tua. Tua, as I said, I think is more of a GM story. I think Jordan Love is a cautionary story. And I also think this is unequivocally a bad way to GM. So again, Howie Roseman has just figured it out. He's written the playbook on it. He's written the book on it. And he will literally deliver it to your GM's front door if your GM will just open their eyes. There's two major things you get when you have a rookie quarterback. Your first is you get optimism. And anyone can tell me whatever they want to say. Oh, optimism doesn't matter. It's a business. You got to win. You got to have results. That's just not true. Denver's has had a losing season every single year since the Super Bowl. There's been optimism, though, in the years where Russ was first acquired, Knicks were drafted, and even, didn't work out, but even Paxton Lynch being drafted. There's been different levels of optimism. There was not as much optimism when you give me retrain Case Keenum, retrain Joe Flacco, and that hurts your fan base because that hurts everybody watches the NFL, even if your team sucks. That's the reality of it. But your retention, and the NFL is fighting for the true 1% of retention. They're trying to get somebody to stay in front of a TV for 3.5 hours. If my team's not good and I have nothing to be optimistic for, I'm now only watching I'm only watching the game for an hour, hour and a half. And the NFL, once again, this is top 1% of retention, right? Like, most people can't listen to a podcast for an hour, watch a YouTube video for an hour, but we can all watch football and other sports for several hours at a time. Movies are in the same boat, where if a movie is played, is the movie good enough to keep your attention for 3 hours, or am I really only keeping your attention for about 30 minutes to 45 minutes? So you get optimism, and that matters, and no one can tell me any differently. The second thing you're supposed to get is financial flexibility and financial freedom. Because, and we know the obvious examples, Russ in Seattle. There were no issues at the start because Russ was on a rookie contract. They got to pay Cam Chancellor and Earl Thomas and Richard Sherman and Michael Bennett and the whole defense. Everybody got paid because they were already great, and Russ was really good early on. They obviously won a Super Bowl, and everyone was happy because you're not paying your quarterback much. And the other positions, even if you pay them top of the market, it's not the same percentage of your cap as a quarterback. Again, I don't believe that just because you pay your quarterback, the rest of your team has to be devoid of talent. That's a GM story. But where the cautionary part from Jordan Love is, Jordan Love really never gave you either of those things. Because he sat behind Aaron Rodgers, and I want to dispel this really quick, Mahomes is not a real example. He has entered the outlier case study, whereas it only worked for Mahomes because he was so great, so fast, it warps all the rules, right? And there ain't another Mahomes in the league. So Mahomes is not valid for this. Love, you never had the optimism with Love because he came in, he really pissed off Aaron Rodgers, who was your franchise quarterback. He was your Hall of Famer. And Aaron Rodgers was pissed. And even though Aaron Rodgers ended up delivering an MVP season, he made the NFC Championship game, you didn't have optimism for Jordan Love. Hell, you didn't know Jordan Love was going to be on the team because Aaron Rodgers played so well that year, he got a contract extension. So you never got the optimistic part of Jordan Love. And when he finally played a game while Rodgers was there against the Chiefs, he didn't look very good. So all your optimism is gone. First round pick, no optimism. Because when you drafted him, we've all heard the story. No skill position players in X amount of years the Packers drafted for Aaron Rodgers. And again, they drafted his backup, who you knew wasn't going to play. You pissed off the quarterback. The one game you saw him wasn't very good. And we never even saw, which led a lot of people to believe he wasn't even that great in practice, is because we never saw practice film leak. NFL teams, these are very, for the most part, well-run businesses. And they're all businesses. I really shouldn't say, well, Ron, some of them are. But these are all businesses. And if they want stuff to come out, most businesses have this. If they want something to come out, it'll come out. If they don't, it doesn't. It's real easy for, like, it is not as, like, TMZ is not this all-intruding thing where they just find out everything that happens in business. They're not. And so there was no practice film that came out, which made you go, is Jordan Love really the guy? Is he, like, I don't even, like, Mahomes had practice footage. Even the year he didn't play, they were leaking stuff like, wow, did you see this throw he made? He threw a 60-yard pass across his body down the field. So they wanted to give optimism with Mahomes to the Chiefs fan, like, hey, we got the right guy. The Saints right now, Spencer Rattler, who's probably not going to play, might not play at all as a rookie. They're putting out his film because they want to give the optimism to the fans. Hey, look, we got the right guy. So you didn't get any of the optimism love. And you didn't even get the financial flexibility of Jordan Love because since he didn't play those first couple of years, you were still paying. Remember, Aaron Rodgers still paid like a top 5 guy. Love's there as a rookie. Pisses Rodgers off. Rodgers has an MVP season. Rodgers gets an extension. So you got 2 more years of high-end, top-paid quarterback money, and you're not getting any flexibility with Love. You're actually almost getting worse because he's not a normal backup because he's a rookie contract scale up. So you're paying, so you get no optimism, and you are paying still top-flight quarterback money. You never have not paid top-flight quarterback money. And now Love with 1 year to go, you're like, we're going to pay even more top-flight quarterback money. Again, just because you pay your quarterback does not mean that you can't have talent. I want to be very clear. But a lot of teams have shown you they find ways to fuck it up much easier when they are paying a quarterback that much money. And a lot of GMs and a lot of owners, if they want to kind of cheap out because they feel like they're either a fringe playoff team or they're just an okay playoff team, but they're not a real contender, they don't want to sign that check to go into the luxury tax. They don't want to sign that check to be like, oh, do we get that one extra guy or do we save the $5-10 million bucks? Like, these are real questions. These are people paying real money to put a product on the field. So Jordan Love, while it's, like I said, Mahomes, because he was so great instantly, it looks like it all worked out. And obviously he sat a year versus almost 3. But Jordan Love, now you have to ask the question, is it ever going to be worth sitting a guy again? Because if I draft a guy, I've heard people talk about this with the Rams, is that, oh, the Rams are going to draft a quarterback and then let him sit behind Stafford for a year or 2, and then they'll let that guy come out. And because they have Sean McVay, they're so confident this will work. Well, Stafford, and the Rams are pretty good about their finances and their salary cap. If Stafford's going to make top-end quarterback money, and he just did a restructure, and I think they're going to try to give him one more year of it's going to be like a funny restructure / extension. If they're going to pay him these $45-50 million a year and give him more guaranteed money, which is what the restructure was about, and then they're going to draft a quarterback who's not going to play for 2 years, that third year he plays, if he has a good season, let's say 4,000 yards, upwards of 30 touchdowns, and gets a playoff win, well, that's the same logic that just got Trevor Lawrence paid, same logic that got Herbert paid, same logic that just got Jordan Love paid. So now, if I draft a quarterback to sit behind someone, I'm not going to get the optimism because this guy's going to be basically a minor league pitcher, and probably even less optimism than a minor league pitcher because you're not going to see him for several years, and you don't get the financial flexibility and the financial freedom that comes with we're not paying our quarterback any real money because you will be paying your star at the end of his career. You're probably overpaying him. Now, it worked in Rodgers' case. Rodgers still great for Green Bay, had an MVP year. Stafford potentially is still great, but these are older guys. You're paying for what you've already had. There's no guarantee what they're going to be like that year. And then as soon as this next guy's good, you got to pay him because 1 year is now the benchmark. One good year and a playoff win, unless you're CJ Stroud doing your rookie year and you just can't force him to pay you yet. But don't worry, that's coming down the line. That's the new standard for paying these guys. And I'm not upset about it. I want to be very clear. I'm repeating it. It does not mean that your team can't sign other guys. That's on your GM. but there's going to be a ripple effect and a very cautionary tale of, if my guy's not Jordan Love, if he's not Mahomes, if he's not these other quarterbacks who have sat and then ended up being good, how willing are teams going to be to let these guys still always pay this top 1, 2, 3, top 5 quarterback money, and you never get the break? And as soon as your guy just proves he's okay, because if Jordan Love tanks next season, and I'm not saying he will, I'm not putting that on him, knock on wood, all that good stuff, but if he doesn't perform next year, and he's not as good as they think, what are they? They're SOL. So yeah. So that's, I think, Tua got paid, happy for him. Jordan Love got paid, happy for him. Howie Roseman's the GOAT as far as the general manager goes. Just, be careful when you think about some of these quarterback situations, and stop asking yourself just the old repetitive question of just like, would you pay that guy? Well, I would. Well, I would. Like, everyone's gonna have different opinions on that. With there's a handful of exceptions throughout history. Like, yes, everybody would pay Mahomes, everybody would pay Allen. Not just history, but in the league right now. There's people that wouldn't even pay Lamar when he was up for it because, oh, well, is he too much of an injury risk? And you can always have those conversations. They always end up the same way, so I don't feel the need to repeat them. But just ask yourself, remember, two kind of stories. You can either be informative or you can be fun. And the Dolphins will be fun. That's all I got for there. Coming up, we're going to take a quick break here. Let's address the Olympics drama, I guess is what we'd call it. I don't really view it as drama, but there's a lot of people talking about it. And we are going into each division, breaking down each team, starting with the AFC EAST today. So we're going to be talking about the Patriots, Jets, Bills, Dolphins, season preview. We're in training camp, draft's done, coach, like everything is set besides a couple starting positions. And we are going to be breaking down division by division, starting with the AFC East. This is HardFoul Radio. We'll be back momentarily.
Yeah. Spence. Nigga, where am I going? Dropped the four in my cup, now I'm floating. I can't feel a thing, to be real, I just go through the motions. Where am I going? Nigga, I'm in deep like the ocean. I've been in my bag, everybody around me, I'm ghosting. Where am I going? Dropped the four in my cup, now I'm floating. I can't feel a thing, to be real, I just go through the motions. Where am I going? Nigga, I'm in deep like the ocean. I've been in my bag, everybody around me, I'm ghosting. Where am I going? I don't know.
Thank you, David Griffin. So the Pelicans acquired DeJounte Murray from the Hawks. While I am sad to see Larry Nance go, he was an emotional leader for the second unit. The reality is a potential starting lineup with Murray, Herb Jones, B.I., hopefully resigns, Zion, probably throw the rookie in there to start because you need a big, and it's another guy who's not going to demand a lot of shots, similar to Herb Jones. Then off the bench, potentially, if he's willing to accept it, C.J. McCollum, Trey Murphy, Jordan Hawkins, Jose Alvarado. Yeah, you're not going to necessarily be big, and so you're going to need one more, maybe just another 7-footer on the roster as far as some bulk and some size. Don't just get out rebounded every game. But length, skill, athleticism, shooting, Pelicans pull this off, and if Willie Green is really that guy as a head coach, that's a top 4 seed, potentially top 2 seed in the Western Conference. Thank you, David Griffin.
That's fine. That's fine.
And we are back. This is HardFoul Radio. So there's Olympic drama, I guess, if you want to call it that. I don't really think there's Olympic drama. Here's what I think is going on. Let's keep with the theme of stories. most stories are about greatness. Great leaders, great men, great women, just greatness in general. There's very few stories that are told about average or told about mediocre or told about regular. We like greatness. We like seeing things that almost feel otherworldly to us. Okay? The Olympics kind of shows you that. There's a lot of really good NBA players. There's a lot of great NBA players. But even amongst your really good and your great are standouts. There's guys who just are above everybody else. And this is in a room full of great. These are your otherworldly. These are your legendary. These are your GOATs, greatest of all time, however you want to phrase it. LeBron and KD put on an exhibition of what being legendary, being great, like that level of great really is. Those guys, I believe it was 30-some points in the first half, missed like one shot between the two of them. KD especially missed no shots in the first half. Look, I know conventional history and logic and wisdom would tell you, well, they're too old to still be top 5 players. Oh, well, they both have injury concerns as they're a later point in their career, so you're only really getting them for 60-plus games. And then if you want to take into other factors, how hard does LeBron play on the second game of a back-to-back? How hard does KD go? You know, they got a road trip 3 games in 4 days. And those are all valid. But when you just watch them on a court with, and there's guys out there. I mean, Jason Tatum wasn't, but there's guys out there. Drew Holiday, Anthony Davis, Derek White, Joel Embiid. They just look different. Those are the players you write stories about. Those are the players who go down as when you're making these true lists of like how great of a player he was. And I know a lot of people, it's easy to, read off numbers or just go off accomplishments. There's something you just can't really put into words when you just say, oh, LeBron's a 4-time champ, KD's a 2-time champ. Yes, those are their achievements. Anyone can read that. But you get everybody on the court. Athletes especially, you can't trick them. They know when a guy is nice. This is why a lot of people put up stats in college. And now a lot of people put up stats in the NBA. A lot of guys have scored a lot of points. Only KD has been considered as one of the greatest scorers we've ever seen. There's other guys who have put up more points than him in a season. There's other guys who probably average more than him right now. But there's a reason why we say, hey, he might be the best scorer we've ever seen. He's 7 foot tall, jumpers beyond nice, maybe the best shooter in the league. One of people's critique is, oh, I wish he shot more threes. Those are legends. Those are guys you would write a book about. It also goes to show you, and I don't think this is fair, and I defended the Lakers last week because I thought the whole idea of LeBron and AD, look how great they are. The Lakers still can't get them talent. You're playing in the Olympics. Look, it's unrealistic. You're never going to play on a team in the actual NBA that resembles anything close to an Olympic team, unless you were on the 1959 Celtics. That's it. So you're never going to play with this level of talent again, nor are you, being respectful, going to play against this low level of talent again. It's not just LeBron having good teammates. He's playing against guys who wouldn't be in the G League. That's how high on the ladder and how high on the food chain these guys are. It's not just KD is taking shots and he's got Book, LeBron, Holiday, and Embiid, and it's like, oh, you can't double him. He's also going against a guy who might not make a college roster at one of the big programs. So let's not sit there and take. So I said, I defended I defended the Lakers last week because I thought it was insane to go, oh, the Lakers aren't doing enough help. But I will give props, and I think this has shown one player in particularly. Jokic is still, in my opinion, easily the best player in the league. It's not a big gap, but it's easy to tell why he's the best and why he has the mantle. Serbia, and I don't like this. I don't like these. I don't like taking from the Olympics. Like I said, your competition's different. But Jokic isn't on the U.S. men's basketball team. He's on Serbia. And with all respect to everybody else on the Serbian national team, they wouldn't make the NBA. Nikola Jokic went plus minus even with the U.S. men's basketball team. Now, again, there's some context here. It's not as simple as just saying, oh, well, they went even because they were going, like, they know when they're lining up against these guys, okay, we're better than you. We're better than everybody on this team. Like, our last guy on the bench is better than literally everybody on the team but the dude playing center. So, but it was so remarkable to watch him and Embiid, who Embiid has struggled, and I think there's a lot of things about international basketball that are starting to show about, I don't want to say exposed, because again, I'm not trying to compare the Olympics and the NBA, but there was some exposing in Embiid's game. They don't call fouls the same way they do in the NBA. He's struggling, can't get to the free throw line. He went with the more talented roster, better teammates, better coaches, better everything around him. Hell, he did, he got a changed citizenship or a passport to go play for a better team. And the guy that you really only bring Embiid for, one guy. You're not really worried about any other big man in the Olympics. Maybe two if you want to count Wemby. But you bring him pretty much for Jokic. And he got dominated. The guy you were brought in for, the one guy you got to show, hey, this is when we need. Stir's like, Kerr even says we need to play big. And it wasn't big because the other guys on the Serbian roster, trust me. They said we need to play big because they got one dude who's going to make our life hell, and he did for the time he was on the court. They got one dude we need to play big for. 4 points. And anybody that was watching that game was screaming for him to be out of the game within the first 5 to 10 minutes. That's a bad look. Remember, you can't fool athletes. They know. And in a game where Durant's playing like that, LeBron's playing like that, Jokic is playing like that, Embiid was a no-show. This is why we have these showcases. Yes, the NBA is the best league and the best basketball league in the world, and it's not close. But what if we took the best of the best from everywhere and we put it all on the line? And because the U.S. still, even though the best three players in the world are all from other countries, the U.S. still has the largest collection of basketball talent. And like I said, and we even got Embiid. This is where you show, we all love those old stories of the video for Magic Johnson talking about the way practices used to be for the Dream Team. Chuck goes down and score. Oh, then Hakeem goes down. Oh, and then Mike went down, and then Drexler. And then, we've all heard those stories of like these legendary competitive moments between guys because it's the only time in the world they get to do this, which is the absolute best of the best are on one court together. And they're almost all U.S., but the best of the best. And Durant showed out, and LeBron showed out, and Jokic showed out, and Embiid was there for a little bit. I know everybody's clowning Jason Tatum because he didn't get off the bench at all. But once Embiid got put on the bench, never came back in. And you can have different feelings about it or reserved about it, whatever. I'd almost rather never get in the game than get benched because I got punked 4 minutes in, 5 minutes in. And again, they're exposing the things that aren't very flattering about his game. He's animated because he tries to draw fouls. He is he's a good defender, but sometimes against elite guys, he's not really. He gets exposed. His effort is so. Like, there was a lot about Embiid, and this is off Embiid making the comments which we addressed last week, where he said, "Look, man, you know how great I would be if I had a super team." Maybe that's what he meant, because he has a super team in the U.S. men's basketball team. Maybe that's what he meant. Though you're right, Joel Embiid. If you play like you did against Jokic and you have against Jokic during your entire career, you will never make it out of the second round. You will get blown out. Welcome to the life of an NBA star. Welcome. There's about 14 tickets on this cruise, but you don't got to be one. You can decline. You can walk away. Again, the guys who are great, even amongst great, they stand out. And Embiid stood out for the wrong reasons. Like I said, I don't really call it Olympic drama. It's just there's things coming out of the Olympics, and I don't care at all about the whole Jason Tatum not sitting. I don't think that's really noteworthy. The reality is you have this many guys, and especially as the NBA gets more talented, people love to say stuff, but they're not really thinking about the conclusion, right? So in other NBA and other U.S. teams, there's always been like a guy who it feels pretty obvious isn't going to play. Either it's a college guy or a first-year guy who they almost bring on for the experience. Anthony Davis was on the 2012 team, didn't really play. And it was understandable. And it wasn't like, and Anthony Davis was probably not the worst player, even only a year removed from Kentucky. Or I believe straight from Kentucky to the U.S. team before he even played in the NBA. He was probably not the worst player. But he didn't play a lot, and we understood it. The 08 Redeem team had Michael Redd. But if we keep talking about how much more talented the league is, how many stars there are, look what guys can do. If we acknowledge that, then you're going to have, and I understand there's this big spotlight because he just won a title. Oh, but he didn't win Conference Finals MVP. And oh, he didn't win NBA Finals MVP. And because Jason Tatum has just become like this easy approach or this easy attack by the media, there's going to be other Jason Tatums in future Olympic basketball games. Guys who are first-team All-NBA, otherworldly talents, maybe league MVPs. And they ain't going to play that much. Hell, Joel Embiid might not play that much going forward. And he's a league MVP. He's acknowledged as a top 5 to 6 player. That's just like, you can't say everything's getting better, everything's getting bigger, everything's getting more sophisticated, and then wonder why there's nicer things on the discount lot. Of course there is, because the really, really nice things are going to be the new luxury, and something that might have been luxury 10 years ago is now in the discount or the bargain. Now, I'm not saying Jason Tatum's a discount or a bargain, but there's going to be, as the NBA, we've all acknowledged, is more talented, etc., there's going to be other Jason Tatums who don't get into Olympic games because we're running out the entire first and second team All-NBA lineup, and you got to put 12 people on the roster. But again, the branding, the player, the profile, all that stuff doesn't matter. Because Halliburton's basically the same thing, and we all just acknowledge, yeah, of course Halliburton's not playing. Halliburton's more of like a third-team All-NBA guy, and we're on a team full of first and seconds. So, guess what? Halliburton's not playing, and no one looks. No one thinks anything of it. So that's our Olympic drama, guys. So we are going to break down, and the way I want to do this will be very clear before we come back from the break. We are going to, in this next segment, we are going to knock out. I'm going to do this in the order that I believe the teams will finish. I'm going to do this in the order that I believe the teams will finish. I'm not giving you records, but I'm going to do this in the order that I think they will finish. So the team I talk about first, that's last place. Next team I talk about third place, and so on and so on. And then, so I'm going to do the AFC this week. So I'm going to run the East, and then I'm going to go through the other 3 divisions throughout the week. And then I'm going to do the NFC next week. And then the following week, on that Monday and Tuesday, I will give my full records, not records. I will give my full standings and who I think goes where. Because obviously a team could finish second in the division, but they still not make the playoffs. And a team could finish third in their division and still make the playoffs. So we'll go over all that. But that's our next 2 weeks here on Hard Foul. But right now we're going to take a quick break. This is Hard Foul Radio. We'll be back momentarily.
Yeah. It's facts. Nigga, where am I going? Drop the four with my cup, now I'm floating. I can't feel a thing, to be real, I just go through the motions. Where am I going? Nigga, I'm in deep like the ocean. I've been in my bag, everybody around me, I'm ghosting. Where am I going? Drop the four in my cup, now I'm floating. I can't feel a thing, to be real, I just go through the motions. Where am I going? Nigga, I'm in deep like the ocean. I've been in my bag, everybody around me, I'm ghosting. Where am I going? I don't know.
At number 9, Caleb Williams. Funny enough, he has one of Justin Herbert's old weapons in Keenan Allen. If you look at what the Bears did, and I don't like hyperbole statements, but this is one that works, which is Caleb Williams probably has the best situation for a number 1 overall pick in NFL history. At number 4, this is the one we're probably all a little too high on, but it's okay. I am drinking the Kool-Aid, and that is C.J. Stroud with the Houston Texans. DeMeco Ryans, C.J. Stroud, Nico Collins, how we always say, or we've been saying since this era of rookie quarterbacks, when guys play right away, you pretty much know right off the bat. Which leaves us with number 1, and I know it's the best situation because most people don't even think the quarterback's all that good. Or at number 9, Caleb Williams. And we are back. This is HardFoul Radio. Appreciate everybody for listening. So we're going to break teams down. We're going to start with the AFC EAST today. And I'm going to talk about what's realistic for each of these teams and what their expectations should be. And I want to break teams down really into 4 categories. And those 4 are, we are going to do at the bottom, studs. And this means tear it all down. Tear the house down all the way down to the studs. It doesn't work. This is either going to be a lame duck coaching staff, quarterback, roster, essentially, because it just doesn't work, right? And eventually all teams have been in this position where you got to tear everything down. You suck for a year or 2, get some draft capital, get some smart guys in the building, try to work it back up. Second level is building, right? You are building it back up. You are showing the signs of something can be stable here. Maybe you've got, in your last draft, you hit on a couple of guys. You got back-to-back good drafts. You are building something. We can all see it, recognize it, etc. Third is living. You're comfortable. You have your franchise quarterback. You got some other good pieces. You are living. You are enjoying what you're doing, right? And then the fourth is celebrating, which these are for the teams that should have true championship aspirations. They are ready to celebrate. The house has already been built. They have the location, everything from when they took their studs all the way up until now. They should be ready to celebrate. So, starting with the first team we're going to look at is the Patriots. What should be realistic for the Patriots? I think if you're realistic with the Patriots, you attempted studs. And I think if you're realistic, you're going to be almost building, right? Like you're starting the process of building. Meaning, if Drake May and Gerard Mayo are the quarterback head coach combo that you think they can be, that's what you're banking on, right? Like these guys have to work. And there's been a bunch of videos coming out for Drake May making these crazy throws. He's clearly got an arm that is maybe the most talented arm in New England history, even with Brady. Brady's arm obviously was never the thing that made him special. So if you're the Patriots, which you are aspiring, I think you're aspiring to be living, because you are aspiring that your head coach quarterback combo is what's going to take you over the top. It's what's going to make it work. And the reality, you're probably more in the stud still. Drake May might not start the season, which is fine as long as that's an organizational game plan, which means you might be running out Jacoby Brissett. And with all due respect to Jacoby Brissett, any team starting Jacoby Brissett in the year 2024 and or later, you're in the process of studs. You are ripping everything out. You are anybody who is, if you're the Patriots, if you're starting Jacoby Brissett, you have the corner that we all like. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. You got a corner. You've got maybe one or two skill position, one or two O linemen. But you're going to have to hope that this draft hits, and you're hoping that next draft hits. It's a lot of bare material here. It's hard to see the Patriots being more than a 4 to 5 win team, but your optimism and your hope, and this is also a part of your reality, is that in weeks 13 through 17 or 13 or 14 through 18, you get to see Drake May. And you get to see the flashes. His stats aren't going to matter. I don't care what it is. I don't care if he throws for literally negative yards. I don't care if he throws for 5,000 yards. His stats are going to be irrelevant. But you need to see the throws and the recognition that looks like, hey, what we've seen in practice is translating to the field. It translates to game day. Because this is your guy. And because even with your unparalleled levels of success for 20 years, you're going to start losing some fans. You run out another, like these last few post-Brady years have been, you keep doing that again for another handful of years, and Drake May doesn't work out, and Gerard Mayo's not the right guy, you're going to start losing some fans, which means you're going to start losing some revenue, and we're going to see how patient Robert Kraft, Robert Kraft has this really nice reputation of he's patient. He's the smart one. He's almost got the opposite of a Jerry Jones, where Jerry is almost pushing some of these things. Or no, it's got to happen now. It's got to happen now because of my age. We got to win. We got to win. Kraft, because he's won so much, almost feels the opposite of that. Like he's willing to be patient. He's willing to let things happen because he has won so much. But your fan bases aren't all billionaires. Your fan bases all can't do the things Robert Kraft can do to distract him while your team's not winning. And so, while I think your reality is closer to studs, you have the optimism and the potential for you could have your house. Like I said, if Mayo works, Drake May shows flashes, you got something there. The next team, and I think this team is only better because I think the Patriots have a chance to be one of the 2 or 3 worst records in the NFL. And that is the New York Jets. I didn't believe in the Jets last year, even pre-Aaron Rodgers injury, and I don't really believe in them this year. Here's the optimism with the Jets. You are probably the most polarizing team in football in both potential media headlines and in potential variants of how great or not great you are. And I mean this wholeheartedly. The Jets could potentially be an 11-12 win team. They've got players, Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Quinnen Williams. They got guys. And if their O-line, well, yes, they're old, but if they could put it together for just a season or the majority of the season, because they do have injury concerns, Tyron Smith, I could see the Jets going either way. I could see the Jets winning 11, 12 games. I could see the Jets winning 3 games. Because the reality was, and I know we don't want to say it because it involved an injury, I think this Jets team is the same as last year's Jets team, which was going to be boom, boom, one way or the other, whether Aaron Rodgers got hurt or not. Yes, it's unfortunate that he got hurt, but the reality is you have a bunch of young guys who aren't quite proven to be at elite level yet, besides maybe Sauce Gardner specifically, and then you got a bunch of old guys who you're hoping can reclaim this magic, and you are basing your season off a 40-year-old quarterback. And historically, there's not a lot of great 40-year-old quarterbacks, and you can't keep using Tom Brady as the example because he's the anomaly. So the reality and the vision for the Jets is you're going to know what this looks like by week 7. The Jets are either going to be, and I'm so serious about this, the Jets by week 7 are either going to be 5-2 or they're going to be 2-5. And the remainder of their season will follow suit. Bless you. Bless me. And that's not, I'm not even trying to take a cop-out approach. They're just the most swingy and polarizing team that we have in the NFL. Because who else is in their position? Who else has Garrett Wilson, who's a guy we've seen produce with bad quarterbacks in non-winning situations, but what does he do when you're playing a big Sunday night game and you're 7-3 fighting for a playoff spot against one of the best corners in the NFL? What does Sauce Gardner do when he's on primetime television again, Monday Night Football? You're maybe 8-4, you're fighting with teams for a playoff spot. What does Aaron Rodgers do at 40-something years old? Is he the guy that can he pull back and grab some of that magic from the 4-time MVP Aaron Rodgers? Or is he just 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers who's probably not one of the 10 to 12 best quarterbacks in the sport? The Jets to me are extremely polarizing, and I know let's if we get any actuality with the Jets, can we just do this? And I just want to stop this logic altogether, but the Jets are a really good example. Stop telling me what the Jets did with maybe the worst quarterback play in football. Because if we look at their schedule, if we said this to the USA Basketball, if you're going to say it's more talented than ever, then you're going to have more talent than ever players don't play. And if the Jets had the worst quarterback play in the league, they also picked up wins against 26 through 31. If they were 32, which is what all Jets fans want to tell you, we're the worst quarterback situation in the league, and look what we still did, won this many games, then you've got to be fair when you also look at your competition, who was some of the worst quarterback play in the league. So the Jets, I think, are extremely volatile. Now, I think they're going to be fun. I think they're going to be entertaining. I think they're full of storylines. Like, I'm unfortunately probably going to be forced to talk about the Jets a lot. And that's because Sauce Gardner he's a superstar in the sport. Garrett Wilson is gaining notoriety. Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. And it's the New York media. They might have this is the best way to explain the New York Jets. If they're good, Robert Saleh is head coach of the year. He's going to automatically be thrust in that position. And if they're bad, he is unequivocally fired. That's the New York Jets. We're going to take one last break, and then we come back. We're going to talk about the Dolphins and the Bills, see who I have finishing first. It might surprise you. This is HardFoul Radio. We'll be back momentarily.
Yeah. Spence. Nigga, where am I going? Drop the four in my cup, now I'm floating. I can't feel a thing, to be real, I just go through the motions. Where am I going? Nigga, I'm in deep like the ocean. I've been in my bag, everybody around me, I'm ghosting. Where am I going? Drop the four in my cup, now I'm floating. I can't feel a thing, to be real, I just go through the motions. Where am I going? Nigga, I'm in deep like the ocean. I've been in my bag, everybody around me, I'm ghosting. Where am I going? I don't know.
I'm curious to see, and this isn't really the week to be talking about this kind of thing, but like I'm curious to see. I think Naruto ended a long time ago,
That's
right?
valid. Yeah. Almost 10 years now.
Yeah, Naruto ended a long time ago. The Boruto anime is stalled. I think there are a lot of people online that, and I think Dragon Ball follows this same thing. I think a lot of people online got a lot of clout from and made like careers off of
Those
Naruto
series,
predictions.
Mhm.
And I'm really intrigued to see what happens when
They
people
have
that have
the
been doing this
transition.
with that have been doing this with One Piece for a long ass time, like Grand Line review.
Mhm.
What else are you going to review? The
Oh, don't
Grand
worry. He
Line?
does Hunter x Hunter. That can never fail
Yeah, I mean he'll get a chapter every year then, huh?
him.
So he's guaranteed one video a year.
Yeah. And we are back. This is HardFoul Radio. So we got two more teams to go here before we finish wrapping up the AFC East. And I'm back and forth on this one a lot because I think both of these teams, I think this is, last week I talked about the AFC and NFC where I thought the AFC was a story about quarterbacks, whereas the NFC was a story about rosters. The best rosters in the NFL, the Niners, the Dolphins, those reside in the NFC. The Eagles also are up there. The AFC, if you look at Vegas odds and almost all predictions, it's pretty much just who's got the best quarterback. And so this division is one of the best examples of that. Josh Allen is clearly the best quarterback in this division. The best roster in this division with a qualified quarterback is the Miami Dolphins. And the Miami Dolphins, love them. I don't love them. Like them a lot. Don't love them. Are the next team on our list as they come in second in their division. So the Dolphins have a lot here, right? The Dolphins have a really good roster. We know the weapons. We know it even on defense, despite their defense not being great. They have names on their defense, Bradley Chubb, etc. They're also probably likely to get off to this division. I think they will lead the majority of the year just like they did last year because they are likely to get off to quicker starts because the weather's better. Obviously, it's really hard for other teams to go down to Miami early in the year, especially bad teams. My Broncos, 70 points. Haha, let's get it over with. So the Dolphins almost have to feel like this just isn't fair. And this is just the reality of their situation. The Dolphins have the second best quarterback in the division, probably the best set of offensive weapons in the division, probably the best play caller / head coach in the division, best overall roster in the division because Buffalo has had to get rid of so many guys. Buffalo's not better than Miami at much, if anything, really, once you get past quarterback. But that's what's so frustrating about Miami's house. It's nice. It's a place to live. It works. It's not a mansion. They don't drive sports cars despite being in Miami being flashy. They're not built in a way uniquely designed to beat the quarterback in their division. Remember, for years, Peyton Manning, teams were constantly drafting edge rushers because the only way you could beat the Colts is you had to get Manning on the ground. So teams were literally designing themselves, and roster construction was built around, hey, we need to beat this guy. The Dolphins don't have that. I'm not saying Josh Allen's Peyton Manning either, but he is the clear apex predator, best quarterback in their division. And the Dolphins, just as much as they do, their reality is Josh Allen versus Tua, it's not close. It's not. And even on the upside part of their games, like this is where Tua really loses out. Tua's floor, you could argue, is better than Josh Allen's floor because Josh Allen's floor, when he really starts throwing it all over the place and is throwing it to whoever, whatever team, yeah, it's really bad. Tua doesn't have those games. But Tua's ceiling, if it was a hotel, Tua goes up about 7 floors. Josh Allen's ceiling, it's the penthouse. It is the unequivocally, it is pound for pound. He goes up there with Mahomes, Burrow, Allen. His very best game is as good as anybody in the league. And Tua's just isn't. So even though the Dolphins are a really good franchise right now, Tua's had a miraculous recovery coming back from 2 years ago. We didn't even know if he was going to play again because of all the concussions. He got paid. I really like their head coach. We obviously like their receivers, offensive skill pieces. They got guys on defense. They just don't have the biggest house on the block. And because they don't have the biggest house on the block, that means the clear winner of the AFC East, again, is the Buffalo Bills. And their reality is, man, are they fucking lucky. John Elway just said, my biggest mistake was not drafting Josh Allen. Sometimes it's that simple, man. Because I don't think Buffalo, this is my most conflicted division winner. Everybody else, I think it's real easy to explain why they're going to win their division. I think I could explain, I'm not going to give them away, but any other teams that I think could win the division, I think it's real easy to explain. Buffalo's not better at almost anything than anybody else in their division. But I think because of their quarterback, they're going to win their division. And I think, I don't want to say easily, because I don't think that's how it's going to play out or it's how it's going to look aesthetically. But I have as much confidence. I'll give away one division winner because I think it's the one that everybody knows. I have as much confidence as for Buffalo winning their division as I do the Chiefs winning their division. The Chiefs are the reigning dynasty of the NFL. Their division's been dysfunctional, so it's just a guaranteed, most people, boom, that's who's going to win it. I think Buffalo, I am just as confident, even though their team is nowhere near as good as Kansas City. Their team's I don't think the overall team's as good as Miami. And I think if you want to really break it down, there's an argument that Jets have more good players than Buffalo. And more great players, you can argue, than Buffalo. But Buffalo has 17. And if Josh was ever going to win MVP, I know there's a bunch of people that dislike the fact he's already received MVP votes despite not having the record that most MVP winners or the cachet, that most MVP winners have had. But this might be the year Allen does it because he's already got the storyline. No more Diggs. They've had to get rid of other players. Is McDermott kind of on the hot seat despite always winning? having playoff failures, lost to Mahomes again. What if this is the year Buffalo goes 13-4 and Allen throws for 40 touchdowns post Stephon Diggs? And we know Miami has a better roster, and we know New York's high-end talent is better than the Buffalo's high-end talent. Just lost a safety, more guys on defense. This is the year. If Josh Allen was ever going to win MVP and the storyline matters, this is the year. So, where are they living? It's not quite celebration, but they're in the biggest possible house that you could live in. And that house is essentially number 17. Hey, man, appreciate you guys, as always, for coming in, kicking in with the live stream, or if you're listening back on this for a recorded episode. Appreciate you guys so much. Don't forget to go check out A&M and the other shows you have here on HardFoul Network.